right, so I'm going to lead this breakout group on training and education for workflow users. I come from Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, where we work with a diverse group of users trying to understand their needs. And this is a topic that I'm very passionate and close to my heart. Next slide. So I think everybody understands the definition of training and education. So I decided to get to the crux of the problem we're going to be addressing in our breakout here, which is what do we need to do as a community to support the training and education for workflow users? I think we need to discuss important technical issues like, do interfaces matter? Does UI versus scripting? How do we handle those? What do we need a standardization of orchestration and runtime characteristics? Do we need a capability matrix or benchmarking efforts that tell users what they can expect from a workflow tool, what it does, but what it possibly doesn't do. As we've seen more inroads of AI in our community, I think there's an important question of do we use AI assistants to help users with training and education as they develop capabilities and they move on to the next level? Would that be a useful resource? How much does portability across systems matter? Raphael mentioned that a lot of the users mentioned using multiple systems. So is this a challenge that we should be addressing? How do we go about doing community engagement? Should we be doing more things like user research, which industry has been using many years for designing our phones and our websites, and they seem to be successful at training us to use our phones and Facebook and other tools. So maybe there are some lessons learned there. Moving on to the next slide. I think the training and education of users today is fairly challenging. One of my coworkers many years ago said, it seems like every workflow tool needs a developer that ships with a workflow tool so that they can train the user. And I think that's a problem. But that comes from the complexities we have with the runtime environment, the customization that's required for the domain. And so is this what we expect, that we do need to ship a developer with every workflow tool? Do we need to think about standardization of the different systems, the different interfaces that allows us to help our users take on a workflow tool and use it? There seems to be a huge amount of cost, I think human effort and time, that goes into trying to use a workflow tool. And there's a huge learning curve. A lot of people, say, I'd like to try out a workflow tool, but it seems like I need to invest many weeks, if not months, to try out a tool. And that's a huge cost for most scientists who are just trying to do the science. There's also sometimes a requirement to learn new language and concepts, which can be barriers for people who are just trying to get their work done. There's also a lack of resources and expertise, especially when you come to sciences where computation has not taken as deep a threshold as maybe some of the other science groups have. There's also a fear. I've heard this many times from many of my coworkers who do science, where they talk about fear of being locked into a tool that's no longer supported because of our funding and things like that, right? So which is why I think portability across tools, portability across systems, those kind of issues become very important.